The announcement came at dawn, like a bolt of lightning that lit up the whole world. The Galactic Council had decided to lift Earth's quarantine. For centuries, humanity had been isolated from the galaxy, forbidden from contacting other species. The reasons were unknown, and Earth had lived under the shadow of this mysterious ban, unaware of the rest of the universe. But today, everything changed. All around the world, people stood in awe as the news spread through every television, radio, and communication device. The Galactic Council had officially declared that Earth was free. Free from isolation, free from the mysterious restrictions. The quarantine that had kept Earth cut off from the stars was over. Humans could now travel to the farthest reaches of space, meet new species, and join the galactic community. James, a young scientist, sat in his apartment in the city, his eyes glued to the screen. The announcement was broadcast live, and the faces of representatives from various alien species filled the screen. Humans could now join the Galactic Council, and Earth could finally share in the knowledge and resources of 1,000 different worlds. It was a moment of celebration, but also of uncertainty. The galaxy was vast, and Earth was only a tiny speck in the grand scheme of things. James had been studying the stars for years, researching the technology that might one day connect Earth to the rest of the universe. But now he had to face the reality that everything he had known was about to change. What would life be like in a galaxy full of strange beings? How would humanity fit in? His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of his phone buzzing. It was a message from his colleague, Dr. Rachel, who worked with him at the Earth Galactic Integration Institute. James, pack your things. We've been invited to the Galactic Council headquarters for a briefing. The future of Earth starts now. He felt a mix of excitement and fear. This was the opportunity of a lifetime, but it came with immense responsibility. The human race was on the edge of something huge. He could already feel the weight of the moment, knowing that his generation would be the first to step into the unknown. Across the globe, people were reacting in their own ways. Some cheered, some were confused, and others were scared. What did this mean for them? How would life change? Could humans survive in a universe filled with so many unknowns? James quickly packed his bag, his mind racing with questions. He had always believed in humanity's potential, but now he would have to see it for himself. Earth was no longer just a forgotten planet. It was a part of a larger galaxy, and the time to prove what humans were capable of had arrived. As James headed to the spaceport, he saw people from all walks of life filling the streets, heading in the same direction. The excitement was palpable. The future was unknown, but one thing was clear: humanity was no longer alone in the universe. And for the first time in centuries, Earth was free. The journey to the Galactic Council's capital was one that James would never forget. He boarded the intergalactic shuttle with Dr. Rachel, both of them filled with a mix of excitement and nervousness. As the shuttle ascended into the sky, Earth's blue oceans and green continents grew smaller below them until they disappeared entirely. The vastness of space surrounded them, an endless sea of stars. They traveled for hours, their destination a massive space station known as the Unity Hub, located at the center of the galaxy. The shuttle's crew consisted of several alien species, all of them working together to ensure the journey went smoothly. James couldn't help but marvel at the diversity in the ship. There were beings with tentacles, others with glowing eyes, and even some that looked like giant floating orcs. Despite their differences, they all shared the same purpose: welcoming Earth into the fold of the galaxy. As they arrived at the Unity Hub, James' heart raced. The station was enormous, a city in space with buildings that stretched as far as the eye could see. They docked, and as the door to the shuttle opened, they were greeted by a group of Galactic Council officials. The officials were from various alien species, some tall and elegant, others small and robotic, and a few whose appearance was entirely unknown to James. A tall alien, with shimmering silver skin and multiple eyes, stepped forward. "Welcome to the Galactic Council, Earth representatives. The alien said, its voice echoing in their minds. "We have waited a long time for this moment." James exchanged a glance with Dr. Rachel. The weight of the moment was settling in. They had read about the Galactic Council, heard stories about its vast influence, but seeing it in person was overwhelming. The officials led them into a grand hall, where representatives from all over the galaxy were already gathered. The room was filled with beings of all shapes, sizes, and colors, some speaking in languages James couldn't even begin to understand. The air was thick with tension, as humans were still a mystery to many of the galaxy's inhabitants. "Humans," said one of the council members, a robotic alien with a mechanical voice. "We've been watching your species for centuries, observing your growth. We've come to learn that your race is different. You are unpredictable, but in a way that gives you great strength." James felt a chill run down his spine. He wasn't sure whether it was a compliment or a warning. Still, there was a certain power in the words. Humans had always been seen as a young, inexperienced species by the galactic community. Yet now they were here, and their presence was causing ripples across the galaxy. Rachel leaned over and whispered, "James, do you think they're afraid of us?" James didn't know how to respond. The galaxy was filled with powerful civilizations, and Earth was still a newcomer. Yet there was something in the air, something unspoken that made him feel like humanity might hold a power no one expected. The council began discussing the future of Earth's integration into galactic society. James listened carefully, but his mind kept drifting back to the same thought. What was it about humanity that had caused such interest, such fear and awe? It wasn't just their technology, which was still relatively primitive compared to other species. It wasn't even their history, filled with wars and strife. No, it was something deeper, something that no one had anticipated. The ability to adapt, to evolve, to find solutions where others saw none. This was what made humans stand out. And as James stood in the heart of the galaxy, surrounded by beings from countless worlds, he realized something. Earth wasn't just joining the galaxy, it was going to change it. The excitement in the Unity Hub was palpable as the Galactic Council began to discuss Earth's future. James and Dr. Rachel were still in awe of the many species that filled the massive hall, but they quickly realized that Earth's entry into galactic society wouldn't be easy. There was much to learn, much to prove. Earth's first test came sooner than they expected. A loud, urgent announcement echoed through the council hall, causing a stir among the delegates. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a vast, desolate planet surrounded by fleets of enemy ships. The image was of a peaceful planet that had been under attack by an alien empire known as the Vorex, a ruthless and technologically advanced race that had terrorized many planets across the galaxy. The Vorex were not only known for their advanced weapons, but also for their brutal tactics. Now, they were targeting the peaceful world of Vorex, an ally of the Galactic Council. "This is the moment, humans," the voice of the Galactic Council leader, an alien with a regal presence, echoed across the room. "Vorex is on the brink of collapse. We need every available species to help defend it. We are asking you to send your best to assist us in stopping the Vorex." James could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him. This wasn't just an academic discussion anymore. This was real. Earth was being asked to play a crucial role in protecting another world. "We need a team of skilled individuals to join our forces and assist in repelling the Vorex invasion," the leader continued. "Humans, you have an opportunity to prove yourselves. Your first test is before you." Without wasting a moment, the council prepared a team of Earth's best: engineers, military strategists, and scientists. James and Rachel were among those chosen, though neither of them had ever been involved in a military operation. They were scientists, not soldiers. Still, they couldn't turn down the opportunity to prove Earth's worth. The team boarded a starship, and in no time, they were on their way to Vorex. As they neared the planet, James looked out the window and saw the battle unfolding before them. Vorex warships filled the skies, launching devastating attacks on the planet's surface. The peaceful cities of Vorex were being torn apart, and the desperate cries of the planet's inhabitants echoed through their communication channels. On board the starship, the human team quickly went to work. James, being a scientist, was tasked with analyzing the Zyrex weaponry, while Rachel worked on coordinating the defenses. They didn't have the advanced technology of the Zyrex, but what they did have was their creativity and ingenuity. James had an idea. What if we can overload their power sources? The Zyrex ships rely heavily on energy shields. If we can disrupt their power grid, we might be able to weaken them enough to fight back. Rachel looked at him, her eyes wide. It's risky, but it's the only option we have. Let's do it. With little time to spare, James and Rachel worked together with the team to develop a makeshift energy disruptor. It wasn't perfect, but it was the best they could do with the resources available. As they deployed the device, the Zyrex ships began to flicker and falter, their energy shields weakening. The human team quickly moved into action, joining the battle on the surface. The Zyrex didn't expect such a coordinated attack from the humans. Using their quick thinking and adaptability, the humans turned the tide of the battle, taking out critical points of the Zyrex forces. By the time the dust settled, the Zyrex were retreating, and the people of Vorex were safe. The Galactic Council watched in astonishment. It was clear now, humans had proven their worth. They had not relied on advanced technology, but on something far more valuable: their ability to think on their feet, adapt to challenges, and overcome seemingly impossible odds. James and Rachel stood among their team, feeling the mix of exhaustion and pride. This was only the beginning. They had passed the first test, but much more lay ahead. The galaxy had just seen what? After the victory on Vorex, humans were no longer seen as outsiders in the galaxy. The Galactic Council had watched in awe as Earth's team turned the tide of the battle with nothing more than quick thinking and ingenuity. It was clear now that humanity wasn't just another species to be overlooked. It was a force to be reckoned with. James and Rachel returned to Earth as heroes, though they were both too humble to accept such titles. The real battle, they knew, was only just beginning. Earth had passed its first test, but now the challenge was how to maintain that success and use it to secure a position in the galaxy. Back on Earth, the mood was one of cautious optimism. The world had watched the battle unfold on their screens, and the news spread like wildfire. The people of Earth were proud, but they also knew that their planet had just been thrust into the spotlight of an enormous, often dangerous galaxy. There was no going back now. The Galactic Council called for a summit, bringing together representatives from every major species. Earth's leaders, including James and Rachel, were invited to attend. The summit would discuss the future of Earth's place in the galaxy and humanity's role in the new galactic order. When they arrived at the Unity Hub, James was once again struck by the sheer size and diversity of the council. Species from every corner of the galaxy filled the enormous hall, exchanging ideas and debating policies. For all its size, however, James noticed that there was a certain nervousness in the air. Earth was now part of the conversation, and many species were unsure of what that meant. A tall alien with transparent skin stepped to the podium. It was Laura, a representative from one of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. Her voice echoed across the hall. "Humanity has proven itself capable," she began. "But can they sustain this? Can Earth continue to adapt and contribute to the galaxy's progress?" James stepped forward, heart racing. The eyes of the entire galaxy were on him. "We don't have the same technology as some of the more advanced species here, but we do have something else: our ability to adapt, to think outside the box. We've shown that we can turn a crisis into an opportunity. We don't back down. We find solutions." The room was silent. Then, one by one, other representatives nodded in agreement. Earth's message had been heard. Humanity wasn't here to take over or dominate. It was here to collaborate, to innovate, and to contribute. The discussions at the summit continued for days, with Earth being invited to join numerous galactic research initiatives, trade agreements, and peacekeeping efforts. The influence of humans was growing, and the entire galaxy could feel it. What Earth lacked in raw power, it more than made up for with its creativity and resilience. As the summit came to a close, James and Rachel found themselves sitting among the galaxy's most powerful species. They were no longer viewed as mere novices. Earth had earned its place in the galaxy, not through strength or military might, but through its ability to face challenges head-on and find solutions where others could not. The future was still uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity's rise was just beginning. The galaxy had underestimated Earth for too long, and now the universe would have to reckon with the strength of a species that refused to be ignored. With Earth's newfound place in the galactic community, the excitement was hard to contain. The humans had proven their value, and their influence was growing by the day. Yet with power came challenges that James and Rachel hadn't anticipated. Not all species were happy with Earth's rise, and the political landscape of the galaxy was becoming more complicated than ever. After the summit, Earth was invited to join several new alliances. Some of these were peaceful scientific initiatives, while others involved military cooperation and trade agreements. Humans were quickly becoming the go-to species for solving problems. They had an uncanny ability to adapt to any situation, something that made them valuable in nearly every field. But with this success, some members of the Galactic Council began to question how far Earth's influence would go. There were murmurs of jealousy and fear, particularly from older, more established species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. The Zyrex, who had been defeated in the battle over Vorex, were among the first to express their concerns. They had underestimated humans once, and they didn't intend to make the same mistake again. James and Rachel were summoned to an urgent meeting with the Galactic Council. The mood in the chamber was tense. Several prominent representatives, including Laura from the translucent-skinned species, stood before them, looking more serious than ever. "We've been watching you closely, humans," Laura said, her multiple eyes narrowing. "You've shown great promise, but with your rise comes the inevitable question. How much power are you truly seeking? What are your long-term goals?" James felt the weight of her words. It was clear that while many were impressed with humanity's abilities, there were others who viewed them as a threat. "We're not here to conquer or control," James replied, his voice steady but firm. "We've come to contribute, to collaborate, and to build a better future for all species. But we are not blind to the dangers of the galaxy. We understand that cooperation is the only way forward." Rachel stepped forward, adding, "We know that trust must be earned, and that's exactly what we intend to do. We're not here to take power. We're here to offer a hand, to solve problems together." Despite their reassurances, the political landscape was shifting. More and more voices within the council began to express doubt. Some said that Earth's potential was a threat to the status quo. Others feared that humanity's ingenuity would one day challenge their power. The older species were worried that if humanity kept rising at this rate, they might soon be too powerful to control. Behind the scenes, secret alliances began to form, some hoping to limit humanity's influence, while others quietly worked to support Earth. James and Rachel found themselves caught in the middle of a political game that they hadn't expected. They knew that they had to be careful. One wrong move, one misstep, could turn the entire galaxy against them. James spent long nights discussing strategies with Rachel. They understood that Earth's next steps would determine whether they would thrive in this new, uncertain galaxy, or whether they would be forced back into isolation. The humans had proven their value, but they now had to prove they could handle the responsibility of power. As the political winds shifted, James and Rachel knew that their most challenging mission wasn't one of science or defense. It was one of diplomacy, and it would require all their skills to keep Earth's place in the galaxy secure. The days after the council meeting grew tense. Earth had proven itself, but the growing political unease among the galaxy's older civilizations was hard to ignore. Yet, James and Rachel knew that if humanity was to stand strong, they would have to show more than just creativity and diplomacy. They would have to demonstrate their true strength. A new challenge came quicker than anyone had expected. The Galactic Council received troubling news. An ancient alien threat, long thought to be dormant, had resurfaced. The Vorthok, a race of terrifyingly powerful and aggressive warriors, had begun to move through the galaxy, destroying planets and civilizations in their path. Their goal was simple: conquer everything in their way, enslave weaker species, and expand their empire. The galaxy had once thought the Vorthok were wiped out during an ancient war, but the recent attacks made it clear they had been hiding, waiting for the right moment to strike. The Vorthok's strength was unmatched by most species. Their ships were massive and nearly indestructible, and their soldiers were warriors bred for battle, each capable of taking on entire fleets of enemies. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations had been unable to stop them. The Galactic Council called for an emergency meeting, and once again, Earth was asked to step forward. James and Rachel were sent to the Unity Hub, where the Council was assembling to discuss the threat. "We need a plan," the Galactic leader, Laura, said, her voice tense. "But our fleets are already stretched thin. The Vorthok will wipe out everything in their path, unless we act fast. The question is, who can lead the charge?" James glanced at Rachel, then at the other members of the council. He could feel their doubt, the uncertainty hanging in the air. It was clear that many of the species believed the Vorthok were unstoppable. But James wasn't so sure. "We don't have the same technology, but we have something that the Vorthok don't," James said, his voice steady. "We have the ability to think differently, to adapt when everything seems lost. We've faced impossible odds before." Rachel nodded. "We can't fight them with brute force, but we can use their arrogance against them. We can use our ingenuity." The council members listened intently, but no one was willing to take action until Earth showed how it could stand up to the Vorthok. The situation was dire, and time was running out. James and Rachel were given the go-ahead to assemble a team, one that would include humans and aliens from various species. They would work together to come up with a plan, but they needed to act fast. They traveled to the front lines, where the first signs of the Vorthok's invasion were being felt. The Vorthok had already attacked a few small colonies, and the resistance forces were in retreat. James and Rachel began analyzing the situation, looking for any weaknesses. As they spoke with soldiers and strategists, they realized that the Vorthok had a critical flaw: their arrogance. They underestimated their enemies, thinking no one could stand against them. This was humanity's chance. Working around the clock, the team developed a daring plan. Using the Vorthok's own tactics against them, they would sabotage the Vorthok's supply lines, cut off their reinforcements, and strike at their leadership in a series of surprise attacks. It was risky, but if they succeeded, they could cripple the Vorthok before they became an unstoppable force. The plan was set in motion. James and Rachel led the charge, along with a small group of humans and alien allies. As they infiltrated the Vorthok strongholds, the human team used their resourcefulness and creativity to outsmart their enemies at every turn. The Vorthok, for the first time in centuries, were forced to retreat. It was a victory, but not without cost. The Vorthok were powerful, and there were casualties. But James and Rachel knew that this was more than just a battle. It was a turning point. The galaxy had just learned that humanity's strength wasn't in its military might, but in its ability to adapt, to think when all seemed lost, and to take risks others wouldn't dare to. As the news of the victory spread across the galaxy, humanity's reputation grew even stronger. The Vorthok had been stopped, and Earth had played a key role. For the first time, the galaxy saw humans as more than just survivors. They were innovators, leaders, and forces of nature. The victory over the Vorthok was a turning point for Earth. The battle had shown the galaxy that humans were not only capable of surviving in the vast, dangerous universe, they were capable of leading. The defeat of the Vorthok had earned Earth newfound respect, and their influence in the Galactic Council was growing by the day. But despite their success, James and Rachel knew that the true challenge was still ahead. The galaxy was large, filled with powerful and sometimes unpredictable species, and with Earth's rising power came the inevitable pushback. Some species, particularly the older and more established civilizations, saw Earth as a potential threat. Others feared that the balance of power in the galaxy would be upset by humanity's quick rise. The Council called for another summit to discuss the future of the galaxy. This time, the stakes were higher. There was growing unrest among some of the member species, and the question on everyone's mind was whether the galaxy would remain united or whether it would splinter into factions. The rise of humanity had made it clear that a new order was emerging, and not everyone was ready for that change. James and Rachel, now trusted members of the Galactic Council, were once again summoned to help navigate these tensions. The room at the Unity Hub was filled with representatives from countless species, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern. The future of the galaxy hung in the balance. Laura, the translucent-skinned representative from the oldest and most powerful species, spoke first. "The rise of humanity has brought us to a crossroads," she began. "Your species has proven itself capable, but with that power comes great responsibility. We must decide whether we can all live under the same banner, or whether we must separate into factions." James felt the weight of her words. Earth had made many allies, but there were still those who feared the unknown. How could humans convince the galaxy to unite when old divisions ran so deep? "We don't want power, we want peace," James said, his voice firm but calm. "Humans have always fought for survival, but we also believe in working together. The galaxy doesn't need to be divided. We can find a way to make this work, to unite our strengths and build a future together." Rachel stepped forward, her voice adding strength to his words. "We know that change is difficult, but the galaxy has already changed. Humanity has proven that we can adapt, work with different species, and come up with solutions when others see none. But we can't do it alone." The representatives exchanged glances, murmuring among themselves. It was clear that many of them were torn. Some agreed with James and Rachel's vision, but others weren't so sure. The idea of galactic unification was a bold one, and not everyone was ready to embrace it. The debates raged for hours, with tensions rising. But as the day went on, something shifted. Slowly, more species began to speak out in support of Earth. They acknowledged the success humans had achieved and the potential they brought to the table. The Vorthok's defeat had been a clear message. Earth was a force to be reckoned with, not to be feared. Finally, Laura spoke again. "Perhaps it is time to trust in humanity's vision. Perhaps it is time to unite, not under a single flag, but as a galaxy of diverse species working toward a common goal." The room fell silent. The decision wasn't easy, but it was made. The Galactic Council voted to form a new alliance, a galactic federation, where every species, regardless of age or power, would work together to shape the future. James and Rachel stood at the heart of the room, watching as the galaxy took its first steps toward unity. Earth had played a key role in this moment. The future was still uncertain, but humanity had earned its place in the galaxy, not through force or domination, but through cooperation, innovation, and a belief that together they could accomplish anything. As the council meeting concluded, James and Rachel exchanged a quiet look of relief. It had been a hard fight, but they had done it. Earth's future, and the future of the galaxy, was now brighter than ever. The formation of the Galactic Federation marked the beginning of a new era. Species from all corners of the galaxy had come together to create a unified alliance. Earth, once an isolated and insignificant planet, was now a cornerstone of that alliance. James and Rachel, along with many others, had worked tirelessly to bring the galaxy together, and now humanity's legacy was being shaped. As the months passed, Earth's influence grew, but so did the challenges. The Federation, while united, was not without its difficulties. Old rivalries lingered, and not every species was eager to embrace the changes. However, the progress made was undeniable. Human ingenuity, problem-solving, and diplomacy had paved the way for a more peaceful, cooperative galaxy. James stood on the balcony of the Unity Hub, looking out over the city that now represented the heart of the Federation. The massive space station stretched across the sky like a shining beacon, a symbol of what had been accomplished. Beneath him, the streets were filled with beings from dozens of species, all working together, building a future none of them could have imagined before Earth's rise. Rachel joined him, standing silently by his side. The two of them had come a long way since their first days in the Galactic Council. Earth had been tested, and time again, humanity had proven its worth. But James knew that the work wasn't finished. There were still challenges ahead, new species to discover, new threats to face. The galaxy was vast, and the future was uncertain. But for the first time, humanity had a seat at the table. "Do you think we've done enough?" Rachel asked quietly. James turned to her, a slight smile on his face. "I think we've done more than anyone expected. Earth has become a symbol of what can happen when we work together, not just as separate species, but as a true federation." Rachel nodded. "But there's always more to do, right?" "Always," James agreed. "The galaxy isn't perfect. We've made a start, but we'll have to keep building, keep working toward a future where everyone has a voice." As they stood there, watching the bustling city below, a message arrived from the Galactic Council. The Federation had officially voted to establish Earth as a permanent center for scientific research and innovation. The Council believed that humanity's unique ability to adapt and solve problems would make Earth the ideal location for developing new technologies, healing the wounds of past conflicts, and finding peaceful solutions to new challenges. James felt a sense of pride, but also responsibility. Humanity had already made a name for itself in the galaxy, but now it was up to Earth to live up to that legacy. The future was in their hands, and they couldn't afford to be complacent. "You know," Rachel said, breaking his thoughts, "we've really come a long way. From being a forgotten planet to leading the way for everyone else." James smiled. "Yeah, we have, and we're just getting started." The legacy of humanity was only just beginning to take shape. Earth's place in the galaxy had been earned through hard work, bravery, and a refusal to give up. The Federation was not just a new government. It was a testament to the strength of a species that had once been written off as too young, too isolated to matter. And now, humanity was at the heart of something far bigger than itself. As James and Rachel looked out over the city, they knew one thing for certain. Earth's future was bright, and humanity's legacy in the galaxy would only grow stronger with time. Just when Earth's position in the galaxy seemed secure, a new, unforeseen challenge appeared. The Galactic Federation had only begun to take root when a deep, unsettling threat emerged from beyond the known boundaries of the galaxy. The quiet space between the star systems had been disturbed, and a strange signal reached the Unity Hub. It was unlike anything anyone had ever encountered before. The signal was sharp and irregular, sent out from the edge of the galaxy. It seemed to come from an area where no known civilization existed, an empty region, once thought to be devoid of life. The Federation's top scientists and military leaders scrambled to decode it, but the message was cryptic, fragmented, and disturbing. One thing was clear, though: whoever sent it, they were aware of the Federation's existence, and they were coming. James, now a trusted advisor to the Galactic Council, was called in once again to help navigate this new crisis. He stood with Rachel in the briefing room, staring at the screen where the signal's distorted data flashed. Alien symbols scrolled across the display, some familiar, some completely foreign. There was no clear way to interpret them. "This doesn't make sense," James muttered. "It's not a language. It's something else." Rachel looked over at him, her brow furrowed. "Whatever it is, it's sending us a message. But why from this part of space? It's far from everything we know." James shook his head, his mind racing. "We don't even know what we're dealing with. We need more information before we make any assumptions. The message could be a warning or a challenge. We can't afford to ignore it. The Galactic Council convened a special meeting, inviting experts from all over the Federation to assess the situation. The mood was tense as the representatives gathered. The recent unity felt fragile in the face of this unknown threat. Was this a species they could ally with, or were they facing another enemy? The Council's leader, Laura, addressed the room. "We've never faced a threat like this. We know very little about who or what is behind this signal, but we must prepare for the worst." As the Federation scrambled to analyze the signal and prepare for potential action, James realized that Earth's role was about to change once again. Humanity had been thrust into the center of galactic politics, and now it seemed they would have to face something bigger than anything they'd encountered before. This wasn't just about defending one planet or one species. It was about the survival of the entire Federation. In the weeks that followed, Earth's scientific and military resources were put to the test. The Federation dispatched ships to the outer reaches of the galaxy, hoping to make contact or gather more information about the mysterious source of the signal. But every time they tried, the signal grew stronger, more erratic, and more disruptive. It was as if whatever was out there was waiting, watching, preparing to make its move. One evening, James and Rachel were in the lab, reviewing data and brainstorming strategies. Suddenly, a new message came through, a direct transmission, not just a signal anymore. The screen flickered, and an image appeared, sharp and clear. It was a face, humanoid but vastly different from anything James had ever seen. The figure spoke, its voice distorted but clear. "We know you," the figure said, its voice chilling. "And we are coming." The screen went black. James and Rachel exchanged a look. It was the beginning of something they hadn't been prepared for. Whatever was coming, it wasn't a simple challenge. It was something far more dangerous. The Federation was on edge. The chilling message from the mysterious figure had sent shockwaves through the entire galaxy. No one knew what it meant, but the sense of impending danger was undeniable. The words, "We know you," and "we are coming" echoed in James' mind, haunting him with their meaning. For weeks, the Federation had been on high alert. Ships patrolled the outer edges of the galaxy, scanning for any signs of movement, but the silence that followed the transmission was unnerving. The figure's face, cold and emotionless, remained burned in James' memory. He couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy had just been marked, targeted by something far older and more powerful than anything they had encountered before. James and Rachel had been working around the clock, analyzing every scrap of information they could find. Despite their best efforts, the signal's source remained unknown. The more they tried to understand the message, the more questions arose. It was clear now. The Federation had been warned of an arrival, but from who? And why? Laura, the council leader, called for an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council. The room was filled with representatives from every corner of the galaxy, their faces grim as they prepared for what lay ahead. The unity they had built over the past months now felt fragile, the possibility of war hanging in the air like a dark cloud. "Humanity has shown it can rise to challenges before," Laura began, her voice steady. "And now, once again, we must prove ourselves. But this threat is unlike any we have faced. We must be united, not just for ourselves, but for the future of every species in the Federation." James stood among the council members, feeling the weight of the moment. Earth had already proven its worth, but now they were faced with something entirely new. He exchanged a look with Rachel, who gave him a small, reassuring nod. They had come a long way, and now, more than ever, humanity would have to rise to the occasion. "We've learned from the past," James said, his voice carrying across the room. "We've learned to adapt, to think when the odds are stacked against us. We don't know what this threat is, but we do know one thing: we can't face it alone." Rachel stepped forward. "The Federation is stronger when we stand together. We've united worlds before, and we can do it again. This time, We'll face the unknown together. There was a long silence as the council members exchanged uncertain glances. But as the minutes ticked by, a quiet shift began. Slowly, one by one, the representatives nodded in agreement. The galaxy would unite once again, this time, not just for peace, but for survival. The council agreed to launch a full-scale investigation into the source of the message. Earth would play a key role in this, with James and Rachel leading the charge. They would gather intelligence, form alliances, and prepare for what was to come. As the meeting concluded, James felt a sense of purpose. The threat that had loomed over them still felt distant, but now they were ready. The Federation was not just a group of planets anymore. It was a family. And humanity had proven time and time again that it would protect its own. As James and Rachel left the council chamber, the future still felt uncertain. But one thing was clear: Earth and its allies were no longer just survivors in the galaxy. They were leaders, ready to face whatever came next, together. The galaxy had entered a new dawn, and humanity was at the forefront, ready to guide the way.